We begin tonight with tonight's big statement. Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte dousing hopes once again that she might be running for the presidency next year. In a message posted on her Facebook account, the presidential daughter says she is presenting herself to Davaoeños as mayor for the third and last time.
But her supporters remain firm. They believe Inday Sara will still make a last-minute move to run for chief executive. They're banking on a possible substitution bid come November 15. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. The deadline for filing of certificates of candidacy has passed, and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte did not cast her name in the presidential race.
Despite this, her supporters continue to back her potential presidential run. They are now hoping that she will be a substitute candidate come November 15. Mayan Los Baños with The Big Story.
Clad in green, supporters of Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte were not letting up. Outside the CCP complex, they remained hopeful that Inday Sara will file her COC for president before the 5 p.m. deadline. But the mayor was a no-show. She stayed true to her message earlier in the day. She'll run for her last term as Davao City Mayor. She also hinted at a possible retirement by 2025. But supporters are still banking on a possible substitution.
Pwede naman tayo hanggang, di ba, hanggang November 15 man yung at saka ngayon ang pinaka-last 8. Pwede yun po ma'am kasi may mga batas naman tayo na pwede nyo na magpalit o pwede nyo mag-withdraw.
This is also what the Duterte pa rin group is expecting, taking from their experience with President Duterte back in 2015. They're hoping Senator Bato de la Rosa will be placeholder for Sara. The lawmaker, in a surprise move, filed for presidency under PDP Laban.
We are seeing the same scenario as before, na November 15, magkaroon din ng gano'n. So may mga elemento, ay mga factors din na pwedeng mangyari uli ang nangyari noon.
Likewise, the Basta Sara group also remained confident that the presidential daughter will run as president. This was after citing their talks with Mayor Sara via Zoom last month. They said that during the previous month, it was clear that Mayor Sara will give way for her father to run as VP. But that has changed with the elder Duterte's retirement from politics.
Nang mag-withdraw si Pangulong Duterte ng kanyang kandidatura bilang Vice President, lumakas ang aming paniniwala na tatakbo si Mayor.
But should she decide not to run for a national post,
Makikinig kami sa kanya. Manlulumo kami, magkakaroon kami ng manghihina sapagkat unlang ang pag-asa namin.
candidates have until October 8 to register, but withdrawals and substitutions are allowed until November 15, leaving room for last-minute changes. Reporting for News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
To talk more about the ruling party's plans, joining us tonight, Energy Undersecretary Astra Naik, head of the Membership Committee of PDP Laban. Ms. Naik, welcome to The Big Story.
Welcome. Welcome sa lahat ng ating mga manonood, and thank you, Robbie, for granting us this interview tonight. So magandang gabi sa lahat ng ating mga manonood at nakikinig sa programang The Big Story.
Magandang gabi po. So linawin lang po natin, as far as PDP Laban is concerned, we saw Senator Bato de la Rosa filing for president, and at the same time, hindi namamatay yung usapan about Sara Duterte. Placeholder lang po ba si Senator Bato?
Seryoso naman ho ang aming partido sa pag-field sa kanya bilang kandidato. No? So, si Senator Bato, kung titingnan natin ang kanyang story sa kanyang buhay, mula sa pagiging pulis, binigyan ng pagkakataon ng ating taong bayan na mahalal bilang senador. He garnered around 19 million votes para sa pagtakbo niya ng senador ng 2019. At nakikita natin na meron siyang serious following at supporters already. So, yun na nga yung sa simula pa lamang sinabi na namin sa partido that we will have a presidential candidate.
Opo. But does that mean na yung mga usap-usapan tungkol kay Sara Duterte as potential substitute or replacement ay wala na o tuloy pa rin ang usapan dyan?
Robbie, hindi namin masasabi yan na there's going to be a substitution. Unang-una, Sara Duterte is not yet a party member for now, no? Kasi yun nga yung sinabi namin na although Sara has once in her political career been a member of PDP Laban, pero hindi naman po siya nag-rejoin sa partido because she concentrated on their local party. So hindi naman pwedeng mag-substitute sa isang kandidato namin ang hindi miyembro ng partido.
Maraming salamat po, Energy Undersecretary Astra Naik. She is speaking on behalf of PDP Laban. So how exactly does the substitution system work? Can anyone just replace those who have filed their COCs? For these elections, the first crucial date for substitution is November 15. Here, one may serve as substitute if a candidate withdraws his or her candidacy, dies, or disqualified. This will also be the last day for substitution for party list nominees. After the substitution is still possible, but only if the original candidate dies or is disqualified from November 16 to midday of Election Day, May 9. Substitution is no longer allowed if the original candidate withdraws his or her candidacy. At this point, substitutes and original candidates must bear the same surname and they must also come from the same party. Now, why are these rules important? Well, guidelines for substitution were initially vague during the past elections, except in 2016 when PDP Laban presidential vote Martin Dino dropped out of the race. His substitute then was Davao City Mayor and now President Rodrigo Duterte. Since then, the substitution system has become an important part of the country's election cycle.
These are the other big stories tonight. The word war begins on the last day of filing of COCs as Manila Mayor Isko Moreno slams Vice President Leni Robredo for dropping Liberal Party amidst her call for unity. Further easing up ahead as the country relaxes quarantine protocols for travelers from green and yellow countries. And a journalist and Rappler CEO Maria Ressa bags the first Nobel Peace Prize for a Filipino. These big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Presidential aspirant Leni Robredo bears that she was ready to ditch her 2022 plans if it weren't for Isko Moreno's wish to give the Marcoses a chance at redemption.
The presidential aspirant from Manila has also turned against Robredo, calling her a fake leader with a fake color. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives us a front seat to this story.
The change in political colors took many by surprise, but not as much as the fact that the chairperson of the Liberal Party decided not to run under her own political party. Robredo said her message was unity, the need to cross political lines.
Pero running for independent is our symbolic way of showing na bukas kami sa pakikipag-alyansa sa maraming mga partido. Yung aming sinusulong na inclusivity.
To the last minute, the Robredo camp tried but failed to forge an alliance with other candidates to present a united front. with at least 4 presidential candidates offering an alternative to the administration. There are fears of splitting the vote. Robredo disagrees.
Hindi na ako ganun ka-concern ngayon than when I was first starting. Kasi lumalabas naman ngayon, kami talaga yung oposisyon.
Some supporters backed her up on that.
Sobrang linis ng track record, walang bahid ng katwalian, walang bahid ng pagnanakaw, never nasangkot sa corruption. So yun pa lang talaga, yun na eh.
On Friday, Pangilinan also filed his certificate of candidacy for VP under the Liberal Party. The once formidable party is fielding only 5 candidates for the Senate, at least for now.
In the last 2 presidential elections, yung mga huli nagdeklara, yun pa ang nanalo.
Robredo admitted that as of last week, she had already decided not to run for president. She was ready to face the wrath of her supporters, who had been waiting for months.
I was already there.
Really?
Nagpalit lang yung decision last year. What was the deciding factor naman? Yung realization that this is the right thing to do.
In fact, Robredo said that among the many factors that pushed her to run was presidential aspirant Isko Moreno's stance on the Marcoses. Moreno earlier said that he wants the late dictator's family to be given a chance to redeem themselves. For Robredo, it's a non-negotiable, and they're just not aligned on many points. And the Manila mayor is now on the aggressive towards Robredo, calling her a fake leader with a fake color. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, we are One News.
Why exactly did Vice President Robredo switch colors from yellow to pink? How is this move even important? One News producer Arian Calumbiran with this story.
Vice President Leni Robredo painted the town pink on Thursday after she announced and sealed her bid for the presidency in 2022. One only has to visit social media pages to see a flooding of all shades of pink. But the Liberal Party, which Robredo chairs, has been known for the yellow color. Why then drop the color?
Bakit ba yung Liberal Party na identify sa yellow? Kasi yung yellow, naging simbolo siya ng protest. Naging simbolo siya ng protest against the dictatorship. Ngayon, iba na yung laban. Hindi lang yung pagbabalik ng anak ng diktador, pero ang nilalabanan natin ngayon, masamang pamamahala. Yung pink ngayon ay siya yung lumalabas na global symbol of protest and activism. Again, global siya.
True enough, in 2020, political pink was the color of activism in the U.S. Celebrities donned the color to support various causes, from gender equality to women empowerment. Celebrities like Amy Schumer and Mandy Moore have sported the bright pink jumpsuit to champion female ambition in a campaign called Ambition Suits You. Pink, some might think, is a diluted version of red, the color of war and revolution. But the color today also symbolizes a greater struggle, breast cancer awareness. As for Robredo, she's used the color before in her fight against poverty through her Angat Buhay program.
The color of hope.
But the choice still came as a surprise for some of her allies.
Pink, we never thought, but who would ever think that pink now is the color of hope?
While unexpected, a political pundit believes a change of color might just be the most brilliant move she could make at the moment.
To broaden the possible coalition, the support, it's good to define yourself differently. From an era that we all knew came from the Aquinos, with the death of President Noynoy.
In this day and age, when politics has caused so much division, giving birth to labels such as DDS and Dilawan, the use of pink might just be the best strategy to actually ward off any labels, best explained in this artwork by Calbo. Arian Calumbiran, we are One News.
The senatorial race for the 2022 elections is also set after the deadline for filing of COC has passed. Let's find out who will be running under some of the notable party lists in the country. The Liberal Party will be fielding 5 senatoriables under the slate of Vice President Leni Robredo. The 5 aspirants are Senators Risa Ontiveros, Leila De Lima, human rights lawyer Chel Jokno, former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, and former Ifugao Representative Teddy Bagilan. For Aksyon Demokratiko, they will be fielding candidates under Manila Mayor Isko Moreno's slate. These are veteran broadcaster and former Vice President Noli De Castro, civic leader Samira Gutok, and education entrepreneur Carlita. Meanwhile, the ruling party, PDP Laban, under the Cusi faction, will be fielding 7 senatorial aspirants. These are broadcaster Ray Langit, Agrarian Reform Secretary John Castriciones, actor Robin Padilla, Sagip Party List Representative Rodante Marcoleta, Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo, Anti-Corruption Commissioner Greco Berrica, and DPWH Secretary Mark Villar. A certain Silvestre Bello Jr. is also running under PDP Laban, but this is not the incumbent Labor Secretary.
In other news, authorities have yet to pinpoint the culprit behind the text blast campaigning presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos. Doing so might take some time as devices used to spoof communication towers are only accessible in the black market. Jess De Los Santos has the story.
On Wednesday, those near Sofitel for the filing of certificates of candidacy received an emergency alert mobile system message. The message campaigns for presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos. The former senator and even telcos already denied involvement in the use of the text blasts meant for calamities. So that begs a question. What happened?
What happened is that a nearby cell tower broadcasts these messages. So I understand that telcos may not be aware of this. Yes, that may be true. As cell tower spoofing exists.
So what's spoofing, you ask? It's basically disguising communication as if it were from a known or trusted source. It makes use of a stingray, a device used to imitate cell towers to broadcast messages. Question is it even allowed here in the country?
These devices are difficult to purchase. This is not commercially available. This can be used in other areas as this is only portable, and given that one has such access to black markets or has these devices, one can also broadcast this to other areas as well.
The National Privacy Commission admits they haven't made progress in their investigation over the alert blasts. The National Telecommunications Commission has reason to believe that portable cell sites were used for the blast, the selling and use of which has been banned since 2013. But they admit monitoring is no easy feat.
Nahihirapan po kami dyan, yung pagpasok kasi sa Bureau of Customs, Coordination Bureau of Customs. Kasi pagka ipinasok yan na hindi rin dumaan sa customs, mahirap po talagang ma-monitor kasi yung iba po maliliit na eh.
Illegal use of such devices is punishable for a measly fine of 2,000 pesos. Jess De Los Santos, We Are One News.
Salamat, Willie. Willie Revillame says the record straight, he will not run in the 2022 polls. President Rodrigo Duterte had earlier urged Willie to gun for a Senate seat. In Wawawin, Cuyuel said he does not need to be a politician to serve. He'd rather continue helping Filipinos in his own TV show. Willie also emphasized that he's not knowledgeable about making laws. He believes it'll only become a laughingstock of fellow senators and disappoint Filipinos. He pointed out that mere kindness won't suffice in being a public official. Many netizens have commended Cuyuel for his humility and honesty. So much so that they want him to be the subject of his very own catchphrase, Bigyan ng Jacket. Nick Garcia, We Are One News.
Time for another quick break. When we return, quarantine rules for travelers from select countries will be eased in the hopes that it will also help boost the country's investment climate. What's a filing for COCs in the elections without an interesting mix of characters? Find out which Marvel superhero even made a cameo at Sofitel. The details after the break.
evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The country is relaxing its protocols for incoming passengers from green and yellow listed countries.
The move is expected to help boost the country's investment climate. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us a front seat to the story.
After more than a year, the IATF is finally relaxing the rules for incoming passengers. Effective October 8, fully vaccinated passengers coming from green and yellow list countries will only be required to do facility-based quarantine for a minimum of 5 days. Then they will be swabbed. If they test negative, they can finish the rest of the quarantine at home. This is much shorter than the 7 and 10-day requirement before. On the other hand, unvaccinated or partially vaccinated passengers will still have to undergo quarantine at a facility for 7 days with swab testing on the 7th day. If they test negative, they can be sent home for another week of quarantine. In this setup, the burden is on the Bureau of Quarantine to strictly monitor passengers' health.
Dapat yakin ng Bureau of Quarantine ang striktong symptom monitoring habang nasa facility ang pasahero. Sa kaso ng mga dayuhan o foreign nationals, kinakailangan makakuha sila ng sariling pre-booked accommodation na hindi bababa sa 6 na araw para sa fully vaccinated.
According to Trade Secretary Mon Lopez, this should help bring in more investments.
More importantly, yung mga investors, mamumuhunan na gustong pumunta po dito, actually nadi-discourage sila pag naririnig nila noon na 14 days quarantine. In a way, nakaka-apekto rin yan sa paglago, pag-recover natin.
There's an extra step though. Travelers will need to present proof of vaccination. For OFWs and their families, they will need a certificate from the Philippine Overseas Labor Office in their country of origin. For Filipinos or foreigners who got their jobs in the Philippines, they will need a VaxCert PH digital certificate or the yellow BOQ issued international certificate of vaccination. And for non-OFWs and foreigners vaccinated abroad, a digital certificate from a foreign government which has a reciprocal arrangement with the Philippines is required. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Journalist and Rappler CEO Maria Ressa has won the Nobel Peace Prize, the first for a Filipino. Ressa, along with Russian journalist Dmitry Muratov, were given the prestigious award in recognition of their, quote, efforts to safeguard freedom of expression, close quote. The Norwegian Nobel Committee also noted that Ressa used her freedom of expression to expose abuse of power, use of violence, and growing authoritarianism in the Philippines. Rappler thanked the award-giving body for the recognition at a time when journalists and the truth are being attacked and undermined, close quote.
For the big story in sports, in the PBA, a depleted Meralco Bolt squad managed to power through against the Magnolia Hotshots in Game 3, 91-86, to snatch its first win in the semifinals. The Bolts weathered a late Hotshots comeback from as many as 21 points down to avoid falling into a 0-3 hole in the best-of-7 series. Chris Newsome finished with 17 points and 6 rebounds to lead the Bolts, who were missing the services of big man Raymond Almazan and role players Travis Jackson and Jammer Hamito. In the second game, the TNT Tropangiga dominated the San Miguel Beermen in Game 3, 115-98 to take a 2-1 series lead. The Tropangiga took control from the get-go and continued to build on their lead in the next quarters to secure the victory. In volleyball, Team Ribisco fell to Iranian champion Sirjan Faulad in its opening match in the 2021 ABC Asian Men's Club Volleyball Championship. After losing the opening set, Ribisco showed more grit in the second frame, coming to as close as 22-23. However, the Filipinos committed errors down the stretch to give the set to Iran. Team Ribisco then failed to carry that momentum in the third set as the Iranian squad dominated the frame to secure the victory. Next stop for Team Ribisco will be Uzbekistan's AGMK.
COC filing in the Philippines will not be complete, of course, without colorful personalities in the mix. The last day of filing saw a man dressed up as the hero mercenary Deadpool. But is he the 5-time Academy Award winner viewer Ryan Reynolds? Apparently, the man behind the Deadpool mask is Julian Navarra, an independent candidate running for senator. On the sidelines of the filing venue was another man in costume. He called himself COVID Man, complete with spike proteins and a giant syringe. COVID Man was there to spread not the virus but important reminders like get vaccinated and observe social distancing. And it isn't Filipino without lookalikes. A man who claimed to be the double of Harry Roque went around and campaigned for Palace spokesman.
A lot of shockers today, Robbie. Last day of filing. Oh my God.
Oo nga.
What a day.
A long week. Natapos natin to but only to get to another chapter. Isang mahabang antayan pa rin to until November 15 before we finally get to really know who's in the running for 2022.
Well, one thing's for sure, we're bound to get surprised day by day. And probably after that, even up until election day. So I hope everybody remembers to please get registered. It's up until October 31. Aralin po natin yung mga kandidato natin ng mabuti. Wag lang sa Facebook, sa social media, let's read up and find out their track record. So we can not only vote, but vote wisely.
Tama yan. Sabi ko nga sa mga kaibigan ko sa Facebook, alam kong galit ka, alam kong excited ka, rehistrado ka ba? So, first things first.
Oo, tama. Oo, walang karapatan kapag hindi rehistrado, kaya magpa-register na at pagkatapos mag-aral tayo. Well, that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again Monday at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph, mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Have a good weekend.